Today for Unleash the Power of Your Data with Aktion Analytics. Just a few housekeeping items before we get going. Everyone is muted, so since we're recording this session, you can't really speak out, but if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type that in the Q&A section on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and our team will get to them as we can. Just to introduce our presenters today, we have John and Ellen from Phocas, and then we also have Steve Hanley with us, which is our VP of the CRE division here at Aktion. This is all I've got, so I'm going to pass it over to these guys and get to the presentation for today.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome everyone. We're really excited to have you here. We can't wait to tell you about Phocas and how we work closely with Aktion. But before we jump in, we want to introduce ourselves. I'm Ellen Osborne. I'm an account executive at Phocas, and I work closely with Aktion on all things Sage 100 and 300 CRE. I've been working with them for about a year now, and excited to have you all here. Steve or John, do you want to go?
Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, I'm Steve Handley. Some of you guys might know me. I've been here with Aktion for almost 22 years now. I'm the Vice President for the Construction and Real Estate Division, which is basically all things Sage. And so welcome. And Phocas is the platform in which we develop what we are calling Aktion Analytics on. So we have specifically built some content. We'll get into this in a minute. Ellen will go over a lot of that for Sage 300 and Sage 100. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, and I think you're going to like what you see.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Sefton. I work at Phocas Software. I've been here for 11 years now. Started off implementing customers on Phocas, and then did that for a few years. And then I started working with partners to build out solutions, which a solution for us means an integration and content that's pre-built from your system. I worked on solutions for a few years, working closely with implementations and the consultants to refine those solutions based on customer requests. And then the last few years working with the sales team to demo Phocas and show it to new customers and prospects. So nice to meet everybody.
Thanks, John. And we would like to make this a little bit interactive. So like Marika said, please do put questions in the chat as we go through the demonstration. And if anyone wants to now, if you want to put in the chat and tell us your role within your business, it's always kind of nice to know who's on the call. And, while we wait for any of those to roll in, I'll just tell you a little bit about Phocas and the Aktion partnership. So John and I work really closely with the Aktion account managers and Steve, of course, during evaluations of Phocas. So for Sage 300 CRE, we have an out-of-the-box solution. So that's what John was just mentioning. So what that means is that the different fields of data that you can analyze have all been pre-selected based on what, a good majority of customers have requested. So, this partnership, the great thing about it is Steve and that team, they know your Sage data really well. They know your industry. And from our side, we bring the power of understanding how to use data analytics and business intelligence, as well as financial planning and analytics. So I will jump over to our agenda here. Just a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We'll give you a little bit of background on Phocas, who we are, so you learn about our business. So, it's kind of good to discuss some common challenges, reporting and analytics that people are working through, how we connect and understand planning together in all one place for your data, of course, the demonstration, and we will leave some time at the end for our Q&A. So what is Phocas, right? So we're an all-in-one platform. And the best part of it is that we're a user-friendly self-service platform, meaning that you don't need an IT background to go in and run your own reports, build your own dashboards. And even better, many of those are included in that solution that John mentioned. So as you can see here, a little bit about our company. We were founded in Australia, so we have offices there and in New Zealand, as well as the UK. And then here in North America, Costa Mesa and Reno, as well as Orlando. So one thing I always like to point out on this slide is that we do have a 97% retention rate, we're really proud of that. And I think it's attributed to the great products that we offer with a lot of support for the end users. You don't get the tool and you're off on your own. There's a lot of different resources to make sure that you're successful. So here's just an overview of the products that we offer. A lot of what we're going to focus on today is the analytics. So looking at your jobs, job costing, things like that. And we're also going to look at our financial statements tool today. On top of those, we have a budgets and forecasts module, as well as a full rebates module. So here's what we hear from customers when we're talking about reporting out of Sage. So a lot of times businesses will come to us and say that the visibility is kind of poor. You can't always drill down. You can't really see line level detail in your data. You might be relying on exporting data into spreadsheets. So if you want to run a report, you have to export one report, export another, mash them together. It takes a lot of time. It's not efficient, and then it's a static report, right? You want something that's dynamic, updating for you. And a lot of times the access is limited to certain gatekeepers. So you might have to go through an IT department to get to the information that you need, which can create bottlenecks. Those people always have lots of other things on their plate. So it's nice, like I mentioned, it's user self-service. So you don't always have to go through one particular person in a business. Steve, I don't know if there's anything you would add to this list of challenges that you hear from customers, but definitely feel free to chime in if there's anything else that you hear.
Yes, and one of the biggest things that we have, particularly in our Sage 300 and even in our Sage 100 folks, is just the ability to get reports or getting data. Let me rephrase that, getting data out to folks who are not in the office, whether you've got field project managers or folks working remote. That is something that a client server platform, which is Sage 300 and 100, doesn't always fill real well. This fills that gap quite nicely, being a browser-based tool, and it's browser agnostic, that you actually have access to your data just anywhere you're at.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Yeah, and of course, we're going to show you a few of the cool features of Phocas today. There's a lot more to it than what we have time for, I think, in the 40 minutes that we have allotted. But like you said, sharing out information is really important and can sometimes be challenging. So within Phocas, there are a lot of different ways to share data through subscriptions, and we do find that people take advantage of that, so that you're not constantly having to rerun reports and email them out to people. So thanks for that, Steve. So the real power of Phocas is we're gonna take your data and organize it in a way that's easy to digest for people at all levels of your business. So whether you're an owner or an admin and everyone in between, we can help present your data in a way, it's going to be visually appealing, and it's going to tell a story through a dashboard. So John's going to do the demo. He'll probably start in a dashboard or on the homepage where you can really see this slide here, how it's all building upon each other and will really make sense. But the real power of Phocas is seeing all of this data in one single source of truth. So we're going to pull your Sage data, and we can bring data from other sources as well, and we're going to blend it together. So you can see on this slide, we have our business intelligence piece to the platform. We also have our financial planning and analysis. And so when you can merge those two things together into one platform, you can really make better decisions, and they're going to be holistic, right? It's not going to be just looking at operational and just looking at financial. And so again, that's really the power of Phocas. I think that might be my last slide. John, you're up for the demonstration. I will stop sharing my screen so you can share yours. We can see your home page.
All right. Okay. All right. So Here, this is the homepage. This is what a user will see when they first log into Phocas. And I just want to take a second here to walk through the different types of content. And when I mentioned content, that's when we were talking about earlier with the solutions, where we have a pre-built integration and content that marries up to that integration. So we can get started with Aktion Analytics really quickly. However, Phocas is very much a platform, right? So we're able to extend it quite a bit. And I've worked with the consultants over at Aktion on a number of these where, you know, our solution gets us 80, 90% there, but there's some custom fields or some specific information that we need to bring that in. And the Aktion team is very good at doing that. So when I talk about content, I'm talking about alerts, dashboards, databases, and favorites. But I really want to emphasize that everything starts from the database. It's the core of the product. So if I come up here and look at alerts, it's referencing the database that it's coming from. And more importantly, when I look at a dashboard, I can combine different databases into a single view. So if I'm a project manager and I'm managing labor and billings and contracts and approvals and all these different things, you know, I want all of that information on a single screen so I can get a good overview of my business quickly without having to run lots of different reports. So that's where really the dashboards are going to shine, is that we can do that. Now, down below, we see some of the databases that are offered. Okay, and the database, everything starts in the database. I build my dashboards, my alerts, everything from the database. A database typically is going to be a set of transactions or a set of data that we want to analyze. It might be contracts, it might be estimates, it might be revisions, it could be labor or material billings, it could be AP or AR. Lots of different types of data can be brought into Phocas, and we can create a database from it. And then finally, a favorite, which is kind of like a report. An end user using the database can create a view that they want to save, and they'll save it as a favorite. So that way, every night the data is getting refreshed, my favorites are getting updated. Suddenly, end users are creating their own reports. They don't have to go to IT. Really empowers people to use data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the project manager database and go through this and discuss some of the things we can do. First of all, our dashboards are interactive. Okay, so if I want, I can click on any piece of pie in any of these charts. So let's say here, I want to look at Doug. Doug's a project manager. I'm going to focus on Doug. And now everything is related to just the jobs that Doug is working on. Now I can set Doug up when he logs in, it's automatically going to filter this dashboard for just his jobs if I wanted to. Or we could allow Doug to see other project managers' jobs and just use the filtering feature to focus in on himself. I can't emphasize enough that these dashboards are very flexible. I can easily add widgets to it if I want to supplement what we're getting right out of the box. So let's see here. I'll go back, I'll focus on Doug. And then now I'm starting to get an idea of some of the things we can do in Phocas, where I'm comparing two sets of data. Here I'm comparing my contract to what's been billed. Or over here, I'm comparing my estimate to the commitments to the cost. Those are separate sets of data in Sage, but I've brought them together so I can compare them and get a good overview of where my jobs are sitting. Scrolling down, build versus cost, AR versus AP, cash position, cash in, cash out. Now I start to get down to some of here, I'll unfilter it so I can see all my jobs. So here's a list of all my jobs. Here's the estimate, here's the commitment, here's the actual cost, the amount remaining, a percentage, the amount remaining and estimated cost remaining. And these views, we have created a number of views like this that, you know, they look great, right? But they're really doing something special because each one of these columns is essentially a report or a set of data out of Sage that we brought together under the commonality of job. And I can create these columns and calculations if I wanted to edit this widget, which I'll probably do towards the end, to add columns or change this. It's not set in stone. Scrolling down, here we have our phases of our job from estimate to committed to contract. Anytime I want, I can click on this and click focus, and the whole thing's going to now be looking at a specific job. So a lot of ad hoc reporting can happen right from a dashboard. All right, here we go. Here's our contract. Here's what we've billed against it. Here's what's remaining. So we've billed out 28% of this job. Here's some AR information with monies we've received, and then how much is still owed. Scrolling down, now we're getting into labor, right? Where we're breaking down by job, total hours, standard, overtime, double time. So again, I'll come up here, focus on a job. We can get a breakdown of labor, no labor on that job. Choose a different one here. Vendor analysis, top vendors by month. All right. Now there is a particular view that I want to show you. Give me just 1 second here. Job analysis. It's a favorite. Here we go. Cost variances, estimate, committed, percent complete. There's a specific widget I'm looking for. I thought I had it up and then it was something different. Give me just 1 second, okay?
And John, these dashboards are part of the solution, right? They don't have to build them from
Absolutely.
scratch. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Here it is. All right. So what I've done is I went down to a widget and I hit analyze, and it launched me into this screen here. Okay, this is the database. Okay, so the dashboard's great where I can give a very comprehensive level overview, lots of detail about my jobs, able to do ad hoc reporting, but it's all built off the Phocas Analytics engine. So here's the job costing database where I've laid out what a lot of our customers that we've been working with are looking for, where we see the original contract, changes, revised, balances, budgets, then some actuals coming in, where we eventually are going to get to percent complete, profit dollars, and profit percentage. And a number of customers I've worked with are, this is kind of like the holy grail for them. Now, right now I'm seeing this by job, but we have a lot of different dimensions we can use. So I could do it by, and let's see here, I'm looking for, let's say client. So Lamb Shoes, click on job. I can see all of the jobs for this client. I can see who the supervisor is. I can see the status. Every time I click a button, I'm running a report. But notice that the the results come back very quickly. And that's a big part of what Aktion Analytics does, is it allows me to follow my train of thought. Here, I want to look at open jobs for this customer. I have a Costco in process, and it's almost done. Well, no, it's not. It's just started. All right.
John, we had a question come in.
Sure.
Are the Phocas databases a snapshot of Sage databases or direct access? Great question.
It's a snapshot. You're always going to be looking at your data as of a point in time. So typically, we're going to update that data nightly. So you come in the morning, everything's refreshed. It is very possible to run it more frequently. It's all based on record count, and we can handle tens of millions of records without a problem. That'll just affect how long the refresh takes. Very rarely takes more than 10, 15 minutes, especially with Sage 100 and 300. We're dealing with jobs, so the transaction counts are usually pretty low and update very, very quickly.
Thanks. And Bill, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to put it in the chat.
Okay.
I think, yep.
So we have a pre-built solution, and there's a lot of our customers are not going to need all of these databases, but just to give everybody an indicator of some of the things that are possible. Here's all the different databases that are building. So if you're doing PJ or PM, SM, which I think is service.
Yes, that's service management on the 300 side. Yes.
So quite a bit of content. The big database, though, is this job costing one, because in that is where I have, and let me hit reset. This is where I have what we call streams in Phocas. Okay, each one of these streams is its own set of data. So I could be looking at contracts or work build or retainage. Typically in Sage, these are all going to be kind of siloed reports. It's going to be tough to get all of that on one screen, where here I have all this data available to me. All right, so that's my overview for this part. Is there anything to add?
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me do a quick screen share. I'll share a couple of things about the content that we've built.
Okay.
So I'll show you a couple of things that I think will be real useful for everyone. Let's see, is that the screen? Here we go. All right. So I'm looking at pretty much the same set of data that John's looking at, just with my instance of Aktion Analytics. So he was showing you the job, the project manager view, which is this one down here. When you go click on, look at all the dashboards that we've created. And one of the things is we're constantly improving and adding to the content. So that's one of the things you'll get with your subscription. You'll get the opportunity to, like, oh, here's something new. I can start to use that. Or I can start, like, I want to grab a particular widget and move it to another dashboard. You certainly have the capability of doing all that. Let's get that screen out of the way, not that one. I don't know why that's there. Anyway, so this is another summary view that we've built. So you can kind of see the type of information. We broke it up by the margin, but probably the biggest one that I want to show that we've built on this one is this work in process. This is your WIP schedule. So now you could actually go in, look at your WIP schedule. Again, you can always, make that bigger and drag it around if you'd like, but you can see there's like your list of jobs, projects. And then you can go, also we've got the ability to look at production units and, again, your labor hour calculation. So we're always looking at different ways of slicing the data for you. And then in both places, if you go and just click on where you've got a project or a job, click on that job number. That's kind of where John was earlier, but it actually pre-adds the filter you see up here on the top left. So, and now you're looking at just getting just the data for that particular project or job. And again, down here in this cost variance, this is your cost coding structure. So this will represent how you cost code jobs, how you break them down. So I'm using the division code, and then I've got my cost code behind that. And then I can go in and expand again, and I can look at my material and my labor. And so it lets you drill all the way into some transaction level detail. So you've got a lot of information available pretty quickly at your fingertips for what. And then down here, again, transaction, that's your summary level, excuse me, here's your transaction level detail down here. So you can actually go in, look at accounts payable invoices, labor hours, things like that. So you can see here's your AP, there's the invoice. We'll scroll across, you'll see who the vendor is and dollar amount, all that kind of information. So as you can see, there's a lot of information that you might be wanting to see quickly and easily available for you within this tool set. So just wanted to kind of touch on that real quick.
That's awesome. We have a couple questions that have come through also. Is the data push out of Sage done via task scheduler and using SQL Server? And the answer is yes.
All the above.
Hit that one right on the head. And then are the widget screens customizable by user, and are users set up with predefined roles? Screen views, and also yes to that. So dependent on the type of user and what their role is, you can put permissions on specific users, and then the widgets on a dashboard will actually just update automatically based on those permissions. Let's see what else. Does Aktion Analytics access the data lake and other external sources? John?
It certainly can.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest advantages we can do is if you're a Procore user, we can go tap into Procore and actually pull that data into these dashboards. Or if you're using some other tool set that you need to use for, like if you're a real estate developer and you're using a different tool for managing your properties, we can access those databases and bring them in. So there's a lot of power here where you can get a lot of data in one place.
It's really one of the strengths of Phocas is to be able to pull in data from multiple different data sources and have it all together. You can present it on a dashboard. Maybe you have a payroll system or CRM. In addition to your ERP, you can bring that data in, no problem.
Yep. And then what if I still need spreadsheets? Can reports in Aktion Analytics be exported to Excel? And the answer to that is yes. Pretty much every screen you've looked at when you're in that grid view can be exported to Excel. And John's also going to show our financials product, and you can export like P&Ls, balance sheets. You can export those as well. Right there. Thanks, John.
And there was one other question.
Oh, sorry, I missed one.
Yeah, no, it's okay. How often does the data refresh? By default, it's nightly. You can update it more frequently as needed, though.
Yeah.
But you're always going to be looking at your data as of a point in time since the last data update.
And you can still do like an ad hoc or on demand refresh if you need to in the middle of the day. You certainly can do that as well. So you can schedule it and then do on demands as well.
Yep. And then we have another question. Why choose Phocas over Power BI? So we get this question a lot. One is we have the integrations built by Aktion, the experts, and the content that pairs up to it. So getting started with Aktion Analytics, we can have you up and running fairly quickly. Power BI is it's a great tool. I'm a huge fan of it. It's very complex, and you need to have very specialized skill set to make changes to it. With Phocas, it's designed for business users. So creating dashboards, creating reports, all can be done by business users, where with Power BI, that really isn't possible. To build something out like this in Power BI would take a long time to do. We like to say Phocas is like going to the car dealership and buying a car and driving off the lot, where Power BI is like going to the car dealership, getting all the parts and bringing it home and putting it together. So they're kind of two different animals, to be honest with you. One is very user friendly, meant for business users. The other one is a very advanced business intelligence platform that can do really amazing things, but typically is overkill for a lot of our customers.
Great explanation. Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I think we saw some applause. I didn't know you could do that. I just saw some hands clapping on the screen. That was
Nice.
Also a question, can you update while other users are logged in?
Yes, absolutely. So in the top left-hand corner, if the data, if we get a data refresh, it's gonna cause these data cubes to rebuild. And you'll see in the top left-hand corner, this will turn blue and give you a status of what stage it's in. Users can continue to keep using the system. When the database build is done, it does a swap of the backend database. So the next time they refresh their browser or click a button, it's going to refresh to the most current data.
Thanks, John. Definitely keep the questions coming. It's awesome.
Yeah, they're good questions.
Yeah, really good questions. We'll have John jump into the financial statements here as well, since I know we have at least one CFO on the call. This will be very important for you to see. And just if you have questions, again, throw them in here and I'll read them off.
All right. So financial statements, you can see on my sidebar. Hold on, can you think of any reason to keep Office Connector if using this product? I'll have to defer.
I'll grab that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, there probably is some reasons to continue to use Office Connector if you're pulling some data down into Excel for some internal things. Again, the advantage of using Aktion Analytics powered by Phocas is simply because it's available to anybody, anywhere they are. So it's because it's browser based. I still have folks that are using this tool and they still have some things they do with Office Connector. The other reason is Office Connector gives you the ability to update, push back into Sage 300, where this is just a read-only platform. So.
Thanks, Steve. All right. Diving into finance now, you'll notice, we've been looking primarily at our analytics tool thus far, but we have our financial statements module right here. And it's essentially an extension of our analytics tool. It looks very similar with the buttons down the left. The main difference is that when I'm on my summary button here, my drop down allows me to select different financial statements, P&Ls, balance sheets, cash flow, and trial balances. Now, these are created by using the customized statements functionality. This was a feature that was designed for accountants to be able to build out a P&L like you see here. Now, I'm looking at a very basic one right now. I'll show you a more advanced one next. But let's jump into customized statements so we can understand what's going on here. So I can create a new statement. I can clone existing ones, or I can just edit existing ones by clicking on the hyperlink. These are the values that we saw when I clicked on this dropdown. So if I add a new one here, it's going to show up in my dropdown as a new statement. So I can have different flavors of a P&L, maybe one for my board, another one for managers, and maybe another one for the branches. We can have different flavors. Now, let me show you how this is created. Now, coming in here, I'm going to click on the plus sign here, and I'm either going to create a group or a calculation. Like you see I've done here for revenue. I can name it whatever I want. I can put it wherever I want on the form. Very easy to put out my top level of my P&L. And then going down to the calculations, you can see A minus B, revenue minus cost of sales. This is totally flexible to whatever way you want to create your layout. But it gets better. If I come up here, I click on accounts. This is something we're going to initially need to do during implementation, is go through my chart of accounts and go through and assign it one of the groups I created on the previous screen. Revenue, cost of sales, operating expenses. If I come back here, revenue, cost of sales, operating expenses. So I'm mapping my chart of accounts to the appropriate group here. But it gets better. If I search for operating expenses, I can see I have 52 accounts. Well, I want to group those accounts in some way. So what I've done is I click the green plus sign, and I've created a new column called subdimension. Now what I've done is I've gone through and I can enter any value I want here to give them subgroupings. So my operating expenses are travel and entertainment, office expenses, marketing, etc. So I'm taking my bucket of operating expenses and giving it smaller subgroups. This is creating columns in a database. This is updating values in a database, all doing something through an interface that I don't have to do anything really technical. So things that used to be, like traditional Sage reports, if I wanted to get a customization or change to it, I have to send that to a report writer, where now the accountants are going to be empowered to do that on their own very quickly and easily. So once I'm happy with all my mappings, I'm going to go ahead and save and close out. That'll cause my database to rebuild and materialize the changes that I just made. So continue on with that example. Right now I'm seeing operating expenses. I see the current year versus the previous year, and I can see the delta. And I can change my date range any way I want. Lots of flexibility with dates. For now, we're just going to stick with year to date. And if I expand my operating expenses, I can see all those operating expenses. And remember, we categorize those using the subdimension. So I'm going to drag that up and drop it. And now I'm going to see my operating expenses nicely grouped by those different categories that I created, all the way down to the account level. Up until now, I'm looking at a P&L for the entire company, but I have different divisions, I have different locations, I even have different jobs that I want to see P&Ls for, right? So if I go to job, for example, job 5, well, let me choose a different one. Let's do job 12, focus, go back to the summary, and now I have a P&L for that job. Or maybe I don't want to see it for a job. Maybe I want to see it for a location. So I'll go to division. These are the 3 divisions of focus. I want to see Focus USA. Click focus, go to the summary button. I now have a P&L for the US division. I can set up at a user level, hey, Ellen only sees the US, Steve sees the UK, and John sees Australia. I can set that up at a user level, so when they go into this P&L, they're just seeing the P&L that you want them to see. So we're eliminating the need to create multiple versions of a P&L and send them out to my different divisions. Everybody's using the same set of data. We're just seeing our view of it. Now, or I could be working at corporate and I want to see all the divisions. So I'm going to come up and drag period, drop that in there. And now I see all my different divisions. And I have my total, my Australian. My coworker's name is Paige. He did something apparently. And I have UK and USA. So I can see all these P&Ls side by side. Or another way to look at it is right now I have my operating expenses, right? I want to see that by division. So I'm going to drag that up. And then I'm going to do subdimension. So now I can see operating expenses by division and then by subdimension. At any time I want, I can export this to Excel or a PDF. And it's going to maintain all the formatting that we see here within the browser.
John, while that's opening, oh, there it is. Well, we have a question.
Sure.
Does the software notify a user if a new account has been created in Sage but is not yet mapped?
Excellent question. So, yes, it does. The short answer is yes, it does. The way we do it is just through a favorite GL accounts not mapped. So that'll be right on your home screen. It'll give you a number to show you the number of accounts. And then, geez, I got a bunch open down here, don't I? So you can see everything looks just like it did in the browser. All the different levels are available to me. And it even includes formulas and things if I wanted to use this as a starting point for something else. All right. So up until now, I've been looking at the current versus previous. I have some functionality with the views here. Here I'll turn on periods all. So now I'm going to see a P&L for each period in year to date. So here's my total for the year. Here's January, February, so on and so forth as I go across. I can turn on Sparkline so I can see trends in my data. Up until now, I've been comparing it to the previous year. I do have the ability to compare it to budgets that I can create either in Phocas or I can load it with Excel. So now I'm comparing current to budget and then variance against budget. And this is where I create my different visualizations. Just to show you that really any user can do this. All right. Percent contribution, percent of revenue. So I can see that Australia is 34% of my operating expenses, or 33.4%, and 4.78% of my revenue number. And then there's lots more we can do with my customized columns. I can go through and very specifically specify the columns I want to see in my report. Now, that's a good overview of the financial statements product, but I need to mention just one last thing. And this is the same functionality for any database that we're looking at. If I'm looking at a number in Phocas, it's not a mystery. We know where this number comes from. If I right click on it and go to transactions, in this case, we're looking at financial statements or postings to the general ledger. But here's all of the transactions that made up that number from this date, for this category, for this division. So any number you see in Phocas, you're going to be able to drill down to the transactions, and you can take that set of transactions and directly tie it back to your ERP down to the penny. So there's never a mystery with the numbers. And, you know, as a formal implementer of Phocas, I love this feature because it builds a lot of confidence with our customers. So with that, I will pause and open it up for questions.
Yeah, thanks, John. I don't see any other questions coming in right now, but we can give it a second. And you can also build out, of course, dashboards with all the financials information as well, and you can embed these P&Ls. So just keep that in mind. Oh, this is a good one while you still have it open. Where are user roles created and managed? So that's in the admin panel here.
Yeah, so there's a couple different areas that users are created here by the administrator. Only the administrator is going to have access to the administration area where they can go in and create users and grant them access to databases and dashboards and favorites and alerts. From there, I can specify a profile. A profile dictates what they can and can't do in the application. So I have access to the sales database, but am I allowed to export data? Am I allowed to create a dashboard? Am I allowed to edit a dashboard? Every function in the system can be controlled via a profile, and that's just what functions they can and can't do. If I've given them access to sales, okay, but I only want them to see their accounts, that's called a user data restriction. So I'm restricting the data that a specific user can see using a data restriction. So profiles, access to data, and then restriction of data are 3 areas we can control that. And then I'm seeing Angel put a question here. Can you demo rollback functionality? More specifically, rolling back to prior years, just not current and previous. Yes, absolutely. Lots of flexibility with dates. These are some predefined date ranges I have. I can always go custom and specifically specify what dates I want to see on this report. Notice though that while I'm defining the current, the previous is also defined as well. So that's how we're doing current to previous, is that they're defined in my date selection tool. So hopefully that answers that question for you.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Perfect timing. I think we have a couple minutes, but if you want to let me share again, I just have this a QR code here, just in case if you want to learn more, you can reach out to your account manager with Aktion. My email address is here, Amy from Aktion as well. You can also go to the QR code to learn a little bit more. But we'd love to have the chance to just chat with you, see how this might fit in with your business specifically. And these are a couple ways to get a hold of us. We really appreciate everyone being here today. Steve, thank you. Appreciate all your good insight.
So I think this is a fantastic tool. I think it really definitely covers a gap that Sage 300 and 100 has as far as having, some really interactive and powerful business intelligence dashboarding capability. We've got several customers that have adopted this and used it, and we can help you learn how to take the standard content and then customize it, make it your own. And then as we develop more content, you'll get notifications of, hey, there's a new feature out here. You can take a look at it, decide whether or not you want to, incorporate that into your operation. So thank you very much. And I appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Take care.